And I changed my belief system around failure in that moment. And I created a new mantra, and it was, I have more fear of regret than I have of failure. I have more fear of regret than I have of failure. And then I changed my recognition of what failure really is. Because I identified failure as me being a failure. And I changed it to failure is just part of the process on the journey to success. How many of you know people that are moguls who have not failed many, many times? It doesn't exist. Because any mogul that exists failed. They just had a different relationship with failure. They identified it as a wisdom tool to move forward. The only time you fail is when you stop trying, right? That's failure, giving up. Other than that, you can't fail, because everything that happens is an opportunity to teach you. When I changed that mindset, I changed what my eyes saw. Because if you're thinking in limited beliefs, you can't see everything around you. If you're thinking in fear, you can't see opportunities around you. And if you do see them, then you'll go right into self-sabotage mode of, well, I can't do that. I don't have a degree in that. I'm not smart enough for that. How would I possibly bring that idea to light? So, in changing your beliefs, changes your vision, which then changes your outcomes. But it always begins with your beliefs. Shortly after that moment in time, I was at the grocery store with my daughters. They were in their car seats at the time. I put them down on the floor. I'm standing in an express lane, so everyone's ready to get home. And both of my girls began wailing, screaming, crying at the same exact time. Any of you who have ever been around children, you know that like very high-pitched screaming cry? That was the cry. And I'm rifling through my bag and I'm trying to find my credit card and I'm pulling out all this stuff, like why do I have all these diapers and wipes and all this stuff just to come to the grocery store? And I dump my bag out in front of the cashier and I find this credit card that I was digging for. And as I find it, I think to myself, why on earth are women accepting a bucket for a handbag? Literally, a bucket. That's all it is. I could get lining, a mop, and water. It's a bucket. So I'm walking out the store, and I'm complaining, this complaint in my head. And my mom had a mantra growing up. You are not allowed to complain about something unless you back it up with a solution. Now, I hated it as a child. But now, I realize that it was one of the smartest things I could ever be taught. If you could take anything out of this room today and teach one child in your life, they're not allowed to complain about something unless they back it up, you are empowering them to be an innovator and an inventor. Because their mind will get programmed to go from problem to solution, problem to solution, problem. Instead of looking around the world and complaining about everything, they're thinking, how do I solve the problems? Then, guess what? Your creativity is endless because you're solving problems all day. And there's no thing in scarcity because who cares if that person steals that idea because you have a million others over here. You're always one step ahead. So as I'm walking out of the grocery store that night trying to solve that problem, I went to the same place of self-doubt that most go. How could I do that? I can't really draw. I'm not an engineer. I didn't go to design school. How would I solve that problem? But remember, I recently changed my belief system around my fears of failure. So I was determined to figure out how to solve this problem. Months later, I was unloading my dishwasher and I had a bird's eye view of knives, forks, and spoons standing up straight in the dishwasher tray. And I look over at it and I think, this is so great. I love how everything's standing up straight, a bird's eye view, so I don't have to dig for anything. Great, this is exactly how I want everything in my handbag to be. So like any new sleep-deprived parent, I took my dishwasher tray out of my dishwasher and I stuck it into my handbag. And that was my prototype. That night, I ran upstairs and I Googled all night long. Compartments and handbags with dividers, handbags in every configuration possible. And it didn't exist. And I called all my friends the next day who I valued their opinion. Key Fraser, who I valued their opinion. Don't call your friends who are always going to naysay you. Who you value their opinion. And I said, here's my idea. And I took a picture of it. And I sent it to them. And they said, either A, come on, someone's had a thought of that. Or B, why didn't I think of that? How many of you know that that is the sign of a winning product? It's the post-it note theory. When you can show somebody something without having to say anything, and someone says, come on, someone's had a thought of that, or I wish I thought of it, then you have a winning product. If you guys watch HSN or QVC and you turn off the volume, you should be able to want to buy something by watching the demonstration without hearing a word. Do you guys know that's the psychology of the formula that makes them so successful? The demonstration of the product should have no words and it should be just as successful. That's how they figure out what's going on and what's not. That's how they figure out who's going on and who's not. And so, as I was about to launch this company, I went back to those old fears. But then I stayed on course. And I kept repeating that mantra to myself over and over again because I thought, at the end of my life, how am I going to say to my girls, oh, mommy was really smart. Look at my idea journal. It's filled with ideas that other people brought to light and made millions of dollars from? Or did I want to be the person to seize that? And so when I launched the Butler Bag Company in 2006, I committed to something. I realized at that time period that women were starting businesses 2 to 1 to men at that time period. They were graduating almost half equally to men from college. Now it's double. Yet they were only creating less than 1% of the wealth. Crazy, right? Think about that. And that psychology degree in me wanted to figure out, why is that happening? Less than 1, that's not, no one's capping you. That's not your boss saying you can't make more money. That's wealth creation from entrepreneurship. And I realized it was because there wasn't enough female role models doing it that are identifiable. And until there were, that number was going to exist forever, no matter how educated we are, because it came back to what? Beliefs. There's still these generational beliefs programmed about what money, success, and power means to women. Now, this isn't just gauged at women. This is specific to my story, but this is across the board. This is hereditary. This is your background, your socioeconomic background. This is their nationality. This is all of these things. There's programs down the line. What are your programs? How do you break those cycles? So for me, I said, I'm going to make this $1 million company in the first year of business. Which, by the way, any of you know anything about the accessories industry, that is the most insane statement possible, unless you have some serious funding. I was bootstrapping. And I'm going to make it $1 million in the first year of business to be an example, to be a role model, to break down beliefs and barriers. I'm going to make it bigger than me. 2 weeks shy of that first year, guess what we did? Hit $1 million in business. Thank you. At that time, there was only 4 women that I know of that had ever done anything close. The reason I'm sharing that with you is not because of me, but because I learned something really, really powerful at that time period. When you psychologically commit to something and commit to it that is non-negotiable, you can do whatever it is that gets you to that finish line. Think about athletes. Think about Olympic professionals. Think about people who have defied odds. 7 marathons in 7 days in 7 countries. How do their bodies do it? One of my friends did it. Do you know how he did it? He committed to it. mentally committed to it. It was non-negotiable. And when he felt like giving up, he thought about everybody else he made that commitment to. Your mind is what drives your success. Your beliefs. The tactical skills that everyone's like, oh, just tell me how to get on TV, Jen. Just tell me how to write a better business plan. Just tell me how to pitch to venture capitalists. It doesn't matter if you don't believe in yourself. It doesn't matter if you self-sabotage yourself. It doesn't matter if you don't think, why not me? Why not me? Why can't I be the next one who does it? It doesn't matter, trust me, after mentoring millions of entrepreneurs, I'm telling you, it doesn't matter if you don't believe. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about. Because I could give the education. I just gave you an example. Women are graduating more than men at universities right now. They have the knowledge. Now, they're only creating less than 3% of the wealth. Do you think knowledge is the answer? Or wisdom? Wisdom. Wisdom is the answer. But we're seeking all this knowledge, thinking knowledge is going to make us smarter. No, it's just going to put a lot more content in your head that's going to sit there unless you use it. And if you don't use it, it's because you don't believe in it more than anything yourself. And so the beliefs are the principles of success not taught in school. Because we're brainwashed to think the more education you get, the more content that you put in your head, the more success you're going to have. No, that's not true. The more you take knowledge and apply it to wisdom is when you are going to become more successful. When you think differently than everybody else. When you talk about how the relationships in your life affect your success. When you talk about how the foods that you put in your body affect your success. What you're doing in your free time affects your success. All those things matter more than what you know in a tactical skill set, I promise you. In the second year of that business, I made a commitment to turn it into a $10 million business, which was really unheard of and not really logical. But I wanted to scare myself. And in a typical path, like how do you multiply distribution at that level unless you get some serious funding, right? How many of you have ever raised venture capital, by the way? No one in this room? Okay. One? Couple? That is a full-time job in and of itself. Raising capital is a full-time job. Like, you have to be the designated person to just raise capital for a good year. But I want to do that. So, I really focused on building my brand. I know Jeff was talking about that, right? He was talking about branding. I focused on building my brand. I learned how to master the art of the media. I learned how to speak more effectively in groups. I learned how to pitch all day long. Because all of that mattered, communication, that matters. And I wound up licensing my intellectual property and my brand. And I knocked myself off at every price point before somebody else did. Which I had learned from Sarah Blakely of Spanx. How many of you have ever heard of Spanx? Little tiny business. Mm-hmm. Sarah knocked herself at every price point, and as I was launching the Butler Bag Company, she was just a few years ahead of me, and I thought, that's genius. She knew somebody else was going to do it, so she did it herself. That's fantastic. I'm going to do the same thing. That's how we got to $10 million in the second year of business. That $10 million mark gave me the springboard to all the other ideas in that idea journal I wanted to bring to life. The thing I wanted to master the most, more than any other company, was why somebody becomes great. Why somebody exceeds their own goals and expectations. Why do some people do it and some people can't ever, no matter how hard they're working? Well, guess what? That's part of the problem. Most people think work hard to become successful. Work, work, work. Like you're banging your head against the wall. I know a lot of you have heard the thought process of work smart. How many of you really know what work smart means? How many of you ever really thought about working smart? So we're going to talk about some of the principles to make you work smart instead of hard. Because I don't know about you guys, I don't want to work that hard. I really don't. I like going to the beach and hanging out and having fun with my kids, and I don't want to work on weekends. I don't want to work on nights if I don't want to. I really don't. It's one of the most fun things in the world when someone asks me to do something on a Sunday and I go, oh, I don't work on Sundays. And they're entrepreneurs and they're like, wait, entrepreneurs work every day. No, they don't. Not when they're creating their own rules, they don't. So if you want me to work on Sunday, there's got to be like a really big reason for it. That's really life-changing. How many of you want to say that to people? I don't work any time I don't want to work, right? Because that's working smarter, not harder. I won't allow myself to be depleted because I want to be successful. We don't think of energy management as working smart, so we work really hard and we're so depleted we can't even think straight. How many of you have ever been so tired you can't think straight? Or you can't sleep because you're so tired, right? That's not working smarter. That's working with mental mush. Mental mush doesn't get much for me. I don't know about you guys. Mental mush gets me mush. So the most successful people in the world work on themselves first. You think Richard Branson works whenever he doesn't want to? No. Mark Cuban doesn't. Damon does because he likes to say he works really hard. He still has that belief system. Most successful people invest time in themselves every day, in their personal development, in their emotional intelligence, in the neuroscience of how their brain works. A little neuroscience 101. Neuroscience is my obsession at this moment because I believe if everyone understood neuroscience, we would all be healthier, we'd all be smarter, and we'd all be more productive. Neuroscience, the science of how your brain works. Instead of dumping all the content in our kids' heads in schools, we're creating cluttered closets. They have more content coming out. That my daughters, in the first 11 years of their life, have taken in more content than I did in my first 30 years. How crazy is that? Think about that. So my analogy in my head is like just throwing clothes and shoes into a closet. And then all of a sudden it's a clutter of mess. That's people's brains right now. But if you understand the principles of neuroscience and emotional intelligence, you actually have a very well-organized closet. And you can utilize all the clothes and shoes you want very effortlessly because you can see exactly where they are. Because you can organize your brain so you can organize your thoughts. So you can access your creativity and mental clarity at any given time. How many of you would like to do that in your life? How many of you have ever had a lot of work to do and you're staring at your computer like, I can't even think? I'm like thinking, but I can't think. That is the worst feeling in the world to me. Because I might work 20 hours that day and do nothing. Now, how many of you have ever been in a place where you're like in the zone, like just in the zone, and your output within 1 hour is more than in 4 days? How great is that feeling, right? So you want to be there all the time? Because then you actually can only work 20 hours and accomplish what you're doing in 60 hours, right? I would rather accomplish in 20 hours what most do in 60 hours. And you can do that by understanding how your brain works, how your thoughts affect your reality, how everything that you put into your body affects your outcome, how the people you're surrounding yourself with either lift you up or bring you down. And I'm not just talking about like drama stuff. I'm talking about frequency, the frequency of the people. So in order to be the most effective leader possible, working on yourself, you're seeking to maximize your potential so that you can magnify the potential in others. One of the greatest shifts I believe we're having right now, thank goodness, is from the old, demeaning, fear-based, scarcity-minded leadership that breaks people down. Not in a good way, by the way. I'm not talking about like breaks people down, like motivates them. It breaks them down. To a more abundant-minded, uplifting, empowering leadership model. And oh, by the way, if someone doesn't want to change from that, then their pool of talent will become smaller and smaller because millennials won't tolerate it. They won't tolerate it. My daughters came home to me and said, Mommy, my boss is so mean and disrespectful and puts me down. I'd say, quit. Quit right now. Because there's a million other things you could do. My dad, when I was a kid, would say, you just be lucky you have a job. Just be happy that you have that job. Now imagine the shift that's happening because of that belief system that we've changed, right? So now, in order to be a great leader, you have to be able to magnify the potential in others. That's how you will attract the best talent. I don't want to micromanage anybody at all. It is so draining to me. How many of you are visionaries in your company, and then the managing the employee part just falls apart every time? It falls apart for me. Managing people is not fun for me. So what I do instead is I find the best talent possible and I empower them. I empower them to take ownership of their whatever project that they're working on so that they have autonomy, a sense of autonomy. So they have a sense of purpose, fulfillment, a sense of output. If you give somebody a project to work on, and then they can actually take pride in that project, don't you think that that fulfillment is going to keep them there longer? Yes. And every millennial panel I've ever been on, and every millennial group that I've ever done will tell you that is the number one thing that they want more than money. Crazy, right? Fulfillment is finally outweighing what a financial gain to shift. It's a huge shift that's happening right now. But in order to be the most successful leader, you have to maximize your potential. In order to magnify the others, which goes back to the first principle, is the most successful leaders work on themselves first. They invest in their personal development. By the way, because of this shift, personal development is actually going to be standard curriculum in our education system. So people can actually become more emotionally intelligent and understand how their brains work in order to be better leaders. I am on part of that mission. So we have control of one thing in this world only. One thing only, which freaks out control freaks. They're like, no, I control my room is completely organized right now. My closets and drawers are organized. It's not at all what I'm talking about. You have control of one thing in this world, and it is your perspective. And you have control of that perspective all day, every second. You're making a choice. Do you want a positive perspective, or do you want a negative one? Do you want an empowered one, or do you want a victim one? Do you want to work harder, or do you want to work smarter? If you want to work smarter, I would go with the empowered mindset that's positive, because it makes everything easier. We get to choose how we see everything. This is a workshop in and of itself. This is a college course in and of itself. Choosing to see your perspective in a positive way, in a wisdom-seeking way, will change your life dramatically. Because instead of thinking, everything awful always happens to me, then you can shift to, wow, what am I doing to keep causing all these problems in my life? See the difference? It's a great dating analogy. All my girlfriends, I will say, I keep dating the same terrible people over and over again. Interesting. There's a common denominator there.
You.
Is it your perspective that you're a victim? Maybe you should choose it to be empowered and date differently. How about that? See how we can shift a perspective? Right? So imagine from this moment forward, nothing affects you because you choose to see it in a positive, productive, wisdom-seeking way. The practice of non-attachment. Powerful. Saves you a lot of years on your life, by the way. Beliefs. We talked about this. Your beliefs control everything. Your beliefs create your habits, which create your outcomes. If you don't know what your beliefs are, start questioning them all day, every day. I'm going to give you a very superficial example because this example triggers people. My daughters are high-level gymnasts. They're at gymnastics 5 days a week for about 4 hours a day. And their gymnastics coach, every day after practice, after working their bodies hard and getting physically fit and understanding how dynamic their bodies can be for outcomes, their coach would give them candy. So they would keep coming in the car with candy. So I thought, wow, this is so insane. Am I the only parent that's bothered by this? So I went to the coach one night and I said, Betty Ann, I know that your intention is nothing but of love. I know that your intention is all good, and you're probably only only doing it because your coach did it, and their coach did it, and their coach did it. But it is pretty crazy if you think about it, how we're having these kids work out really hard and take ownership and pride for their body's energy and output, and we're putting the most toxic thing possible into it afterwards. Which then creates a belief that when I do something good, I reward myself with sugar, which is the worst thing possible. This is how obesity becomes such a cycle in our society. It is that simple. Betty Ann didn't know she was doing that intentionally. She was operating from a belief system that she never knew she had. Do you see how those little things can control our lives so consciously and subconsciously? Mostly subconsciously, or we get rid of them, right? So if you can start to identify your beliefs, remember I told you my belief around failure, my fear of failure, was because failure wasn't an option, which meant if I fail at something, I'm a failure. When I changed that belief system, the world and opportunities opened up for me. Start to identify your beliefs, where they're coming from. Question everything, and it will change your life. You need first to have awareness, to identify your beliefs, to change your habits. You can't change your habits. By the way, diets and exercise attached to a diet is only willpower. Willpower is very short-lived. Transformation is something different. In order to have true outcomes, we have to transform who we are in order to change our outcome. Not motivation, transformation. There's a lesson in everything that happens to us. Remember I just used that example about why do I keep dating the same person, and I said to my girlfriends, well, maybe there's a common denominator here. The lesson is to learn about themselves. What is it that I'm doing to participate to this outcome? Everything that happens to you, there's a lesson in. If you're getting results you don't like, learn from it. Don't complain about it. Learn from it. If I'm getting results I don't like, I will take responsibility for getting those results so I can get past that quickly. What is it that I'm doing? Please show me. Give me the wisdom so I can stop doing this stupid mistake that keeps creating these outcomes I don't want. Imagine if the whole world took responsibility like that every day. Imagine if we all took responsibility for like that every day. How less aggravating our lives could be. I'll say prayers. Hey, please show me the sign. Make it right in front of me so I can get out of my own way. If I can't see it, I'll call my friends. Hey, you guys, I keep doing something. Please call me out on it. I don't know what it is I'm doing. Call me out. I don't want to be surrounded by yes people. I want to be surrounded by people who are authentically happy for me, who authentically want to see me succeed, and will tell me the truth when I'm messing up. Which goes back to hiring. You don't want to hire people who are just going to tell you how great you are, right? You want to hire people who are going to tell you the truth. Life will give you the same challenges and problems over and over again to learn your lesson. It doesn't go away. It just shows up in a different name and a different face. Different clothes, different title. Still the same lesson. So then once we can get past it, we can move on to the next thing, right? It's like a hot air balloon, right? Hot air balloons start down here. You take the baggage, the sandbags out, that's your baggage, that's your stuff. And then you get higher and you kind of start to hover and you're like, wow, things look different. Perspective. Things look different up here. All right, I'm used to this. I'd like to go higher. That's how I think. How many of you are like that? Like once you get to an area, you're like, okay, next level. Okay. So then you're starting to hover, but in order to get to the next level, what happens? You have to get rid of some more of those sandbags, which is your stuff. Self-limiting beliefs, any self-sabotaging behaviors, you have to get rid of them to get to the next level. And then you get up and you're like, wow, this looks amazing. This is incredible up here. I didn't even know that there was trees in Central Park from my perspective. And the cycle continues. The only way to keep going up is to continue to transform, get rid of more stuff, layers, peeling back the onion. How many of you ever heard that terminology? I told you about this one. Having more fear of regret than failure. If you fear failure, rejection, or abandonment, you will stay where you are, no matter how smart you are. Do you see the correlation behind knowledge and wisdom now? No matter how smart you are, if you're afraid you're going to fail, you will fail. If you believe there's only room for one person at the top, guess what? That top person probably will not be you. Because you've already sabotaged yourself in that belief. Failure is only part of the process on the journey to success. You guys can take pictures of these too, if you'd like. Learn to become comfortable with being uncomfortable. In order to evolve and grow and transform, to get to the next level, you can't be doing the same thing every day, right? That'd be like going to the gym every day and doing the same exact workout. Would your body change? No. Then how would your mind if you're doing the same thing every day? You're not challenging yourself to feel uncomfortable. I'm actually at a point in my life where I am uncomfortable when I'm comfortable. Because it's really boring to me. I feel really bored and not stimulated at all. Now my mom, this was one of her mantras too, she ingrained in me as a child. And when she was saying this in like 6th, 7th grade, I was like, Mom, I'm uncomfortable every day. But I didn't really know what she meant by this. Constantly getting out of your comfort zone in order to accelerate your growth. Every day. There's a woman, her name is Luann Kahn, and she was a news reporter in Philadelphia for 25 years now, an investigative reporter. And that was a seemingly really cool, high-profile job, especially for a female in the media world. And I saw her one day in the green room of this lifestyle show, and I said, Luann, what are you doing here? She said, I'm challenging myself. I am bored out of my mind. I'm totally not stimulated. I had no sense of purpose, so I need to find my purpose. So I'm challenging myself and writing a blog. Every single day, I'm going to do something I've never done before in my life. And I'm going to blog about it and do videos of it. And I looked at her, I go, whoa, you will never be the same person after this year is done. Like, you're going to, like, this could become a movie if you do this right. I went back to that show. Now, that show's on at 10 o'clock in the morning, so I'm not typically watching that show. And I hadn't seen that show since that first day that I was on it. And I went back about 6 months later, and the investigative reporter was now hosting this lifestyle show. That's how much she had transformed herself in just 6 months. How many of you know the difference between an investigative reporter mindset, prototype type of personality, versus a lifestyle TV show host? Very different, right? That's how much she had transformed herself. So if you want to grow, and you want to evolve, and you want to jumpstart it, challenge yourself to do something different every single day. And then even more, if you want to really become accountable to it, blog about it, or show videos, or post on Facebook, because that will make you really vulnerable. But it will change your life. Until you jump over your internal roadblocks, the outer ones will stay firmly in place. That's what I've been talking about all along, right? Those who want to seek outside themselves for the solution. Jen, just tell me how to get on TV, how to get my product to market. Who's the name of the buyer at Target? It doesn't matter. I won't give it to somebody until they've actually worked on themselves, because if they walk into the green room at the Today Show and the producer's really mean to them, they're going to get all frenetic in their energy, and they're going to get offended, and then they're going to take it personally, and then their 4 minutes of an opportunity on television will not be the same, because it just mind tricked them. Versus me, if I go in and someone's mean to me, I'll say, that really stinks. Their boss must have been really mean to them. Or, they must be having a really bad day. It has nothing to do with me. So I don't take it personally. So I'm afraid of their stuff. But if we don't get over our internal stuff, the whole world is against us. Everyone's against us out here because we're making excuses and making everything mean something about us when it has nothing to do with us. My daughters are now in 6th grade. The females in the room, I just remember 6th grade, right? Kind of icky. Guys, it wasn't as bad for you. Kind of just, right? No? I feel like it's a little bit worse for girls. Guys just get a fist fight and then they walk away, they're done. Well, when my daughters had their first experience of girl cattiness, I said to them, girls, when someone's mean to somebody else, it's because they're in pain. Happy people don't hurt people. Hurt people hurt people. And they're hurting people because they're in pain. They actually think they can project their pain on somebody else and then it will go away for them. That's not what happens though. It just creates a domino effect of pain. Hurting people, hurting more people. But you get a choice. You get to see it empathetically for what it is and walk away from it. Or you can take it on. And if you take it on, meaning take on what they said and take it personally, then you have to envision this. My girls don't like to carry anything, like nothing. Like they have like a little piece of plastic. They're like, Mom, can you hold this? So I said, so if you pick it up, think about it as a rock in your backpack. And you have to put that rock in your backpack, and you have to carry that rock around for the rest of your life. Because that's what we do when we pick up other people's beliefs. And man, that backpack gets heavy when you get older. And then the only way to get rid of those rocks is to do the work to get them out of your backpack and throw them away. So it's easier just to leave them on the ground when they're thrown, right? Imagine that, how that one belief, that one understanding can change the world, right? And so when you get over your internal roadblocks and you understand that everybody else's stuff is just their stuff, it has nothing to do with you, then it's a lot easier to navigate a drama-free life. I live in the drama-free zone. It's a beautiful place. When my friends, well, they don't even do it anymore. But when they used to, they'd call just to complain about something or like, can you believe so-and-so did this? I'd say, no, I don't have time for this. I live in the drama-free zone. Please keep your drama out of my space. So when my daughters first witnessed a confrontation at school last year in school, 5th grade, this one little girl was picking on their one friend who's very quiet and wouldn't stick up for herself. My daughter, Madison, says to the girl, Lexi, we live in the drama-free zone. Please keep your drama out of our space. And then she said, which was my favorite part, she said, you can't be our friend again until you learn to become a better friend. What I love about that is she didn't write that person off forever. She gave her an opportunity to become a better friend. We don't do that as adults. We just write people off. Because when I told them that hurt people because they're in pain, she remembered that Lexi's parents were going through a divorce. And that maybe she didn't have the right example at home. So that little girl, Lexi, watched how Madison and Morgan treated other kids the rest of that school year. Lexi is now one of their best friends. Because she learned how to behave differently. We just expect people know how to behave. But how would they know if they don't know? You don't know what you don't know. So we just expect everyone to think like us, act like us, be like us, but it's impossible if they don't know. So in order to become a more effective leader, if we could actually teach people those things through patience, compassion, understanding, then we can have a more effective culture in our homes and our workplaces. So I asked you earlier on about how many of you reflect on why I do this. Why do I do what I do? It's not about it's not about what you want to do, your title, your business card. I love when people are like, here's my business card. What do you think about it? It doesn't matter what I think about it. If you were just mean to me, it doesn't matter if you weren't capable of articulating what your company was. It doesn't matter if I didn't feel like you were passionately connected to your company. Business card doesn't matter. The logo doesn't matter. Who you are, that's what matters. That's what people remember. That's what impacts people. So when you get more clear about who you want to be, what you want your legacy to be, then when you meet people, your impact is so much more effective. Your impact is so much more clear. How many of you have ever met a person where you're like, I don't know who that person is or what they do, but I want to be just like them. Or I want to be their friend. Or I want to work for them. And they might not have the best clothes on, they might not be the best looking person, but it's your energy that you're picking up. Our energy affects our outcome. How many of you have met someone and you're like, whoa, I feel like I just drank coffee hanging out with that person? Don't you want to be that person? Before I get on a call, if I'm working from home, sometimes I become a little bit chilled out. And I want to get on a call that I need to have my energy up. I will literally like jump rope or skip or do something Skipping's funny to me. It makes me laugh. That's why I do it. I always notice kids are so happy when they're skipping. They're so happy. So if you actually think about it, you just start skipping, and it makes you laugh at yourself. Well, at least makes me laugh at myself. So then my mood gets elevated, and then I get on the call and I'm more effective because they're not buying what I'm saying, they're buying my energy. I go into meetings with buyers. Buyers want to not like what you're buying. Do you guys know that? They're like trained. Intimidate the person and don't make them think that you like that.
It's worse on the East Coast.
Yes, it is. Exactly. He said it's worse on the East Coast. So I'll walk into these meetings knowing this energy will exist. If it doesn't, it will surprise me and then it's easy. But I'll go in knowing this energy will exist and I'll make everyone in that room come up to my level before I pitch anything. Why? Because if they're in a bad mood, they don't want to buy anything from me. Do you want to buy things from people when you're in a bad mood? No. So I go in with high energy. Hey, it's so nice outside. Oh, I love your scarf. You look amazing. It's so sunny out. Are you going to get out after work today? You're going to do something. How are your kids doing? And I'll keep talking to them till their energy gets up. Some of them were probably, this girl's so annoying. I just want to smile, so she stops. Either way, when we leave, they buy what I'm selling. But they're not buying the product as much as they're buying my energy. My business partners were like, I have no idea what you just did. Hurry up, get out before they change your mind. I have no idea what they just bought from you. But they bought it. That knowing who you are and why you're doing what you're doing and being passionately connected raises your energy, so it raises your results. How am I doing with time? I'm looking, but I can keep talking. Okay.
Keep on going.
I have a couple more. Thank you. Sometimes I do 3-hour keynotes, and I'm like, wait, that was 3 hours? There's no way that was 3 hours. Authenticity, transparency, and vulnerability. This is the key to being an infectious leader. Jeff was talking about branding, being a brand. If you're doing what everyone else is doing, you're just going to be a me too. But if you're being authentic, when I launched my handbag company that I told you guys about earlier, I did not read anything about anyone else in that space. Why? Because I didn't want to think like anyone else in that space. My ignorance was completely blissful. I read articles about people in other industries and I apply it to my industry instead. So that I could be an authentic version of myself. I don't want to be like anybody else. My uniqueness is my power, and it's your power. Your uniqueness is what makes you powerful. Trying to be like somebody else just makes you like somebody else, which doesn't make you stand out in a marketplace, right? Because marketplaces are pretty crowded right now. So what's going to make you stand out is being this, authentic, transparent, vulnerable. I do a lot of speaking in corporate environments, and I teach emotional intelligence, which I love. When I start talking about this stuff, though, it's really fascinating what comes up for people. And I'll say, being transparent actually helps people connect to you. So, for example, if you come into work and you're really stressed out because you're taking care of a sick parent, and you're not sleeping and you feel like you're stretched too thin, and you tell your colleagues, listen, I am so sorry I'm short-tempered right now, but I'm taking care of a sick parent, they're actually going to rally around you, help you, make up for your slack. Do you know everyone, when I first say that to people, they're like, no, I can't say that to someone. They're going to take advantage of me. It's the craziest thing in the world for me when people suggest that. But actually, the majority of people think that. They're going to take advantage and they're going to try and get my job. That thought wouldn't even cross my mind, because most of the people in the world are not that calculated. And if by chance, in my opinion, if they did, they have to look at themselves in the mirror every day, and karma's karma. So I wouldn't worry about it too much. The outcome of being transparent and authentic and vulnerable, your chances of a better outcome are so much greater. But we're so busy trying to put on masks and be what everyone else thinks that we should be, or we think that everybody thinks we should be, that we sometimes don't even know who we are. We wake up in the middle of our lives and we're like, who am I? I don't even know who I am. How do I identify myself? The more you're real, the more you get. True leadership comes from good energy. I just said that, right? When you walk in a room and your energy's high, I gauge everything about my energy. Where is my energy at? The higher my frequency, the higher my results. Surround yourself with people you want to be like. We all know the 5 people you surround yourself with, right? Everyone knows that mantra? I know that there's certain family members you just can't completely eradicate from your life. Or people that are in your workspace. How do you master this? Easily. You change your expectations. Don't expect them to be anything that they are. Period. End of story. Do you know the #1 reason for pain in all relationships, not just intimate relationships, all relationships, are expectations? #1 thing. Guess who inflicts that pain? Ourselves. By our expectations. So we actually control our outcome. If you expect somebody to be a certain way that they're not capable of being, you will always be let down, and that's your choice. It sounds so unfair to people when I first say it. I know. They're so terrible, though. My dad came from a very poor, very dysfunctional childhood. He was an alcoholic, he was abusive, and just a very unhappy man. For the longest time, I hated the fact that I didn't have a better dad. And then I realized that he was only being the person that he was shown. He wasn't capable of being anything different. I had all these expectations of him being like my friend's dad. How on earth would he do that? There's no way he could have, because he was only operating from what he knew. And at 82, he's certainly not doing personal development work. But we expect people to be like we think they should be, when most of the time they're not even capable. First of all, they don't even know that we expect them to be that way. But then they're not even capable. So we just let go of expectations, we become free. We become completely free.
What's your mantra? You said there was about 5 people I never heard.
Oh, you become the 5 people you surround yourself with the most, right? So think about who those 5 people are, and if they're not equating to a higher you probably want to pick a couple more different ones in there. Yep. Yeah.
On that same comment, what you just finished saying, so now you have an expectation and you realize you should not have an expectation, just accept it for what it is and who they are, then the natural progression is going to be that you're going to change those 5 people.
Correct. He said the natural progression would then be to change those 5 people if they're not meeting the expectation, and that is correct. That is your choice. You have the choice. We have choices all day, every day. And we can choose those things, right? And then another thing that people will say that trips people up on this one too, and it's a really important one to take away. People will say, well, I'm not going to diminish what I want. No, you don't have to diminish what you want. Keep your expectations for yourself and your life where they are. But you have to change the dynamics around you to get those results. Does that make sense? Now this one is in a totally different font to get everyone's attention. Because this is not something that's taught in school or even mentioned in school. As a matter of fact, the natural progression of mindset of success is go to school, then work really hard, and then work even harder to prove to everybody how hard you can work, and put in 80 hours, and then your boss is going to praise you like, nice work here on Saturday afternoon. Meanwhile, your home life is falling apart. Meanwhile, your personal self-care is falling apart. And then all of a sudden you wake up and you're 45 and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't even know my spouse or my children. Oh, wait, how did that happen? I was working so hard to provide for my family and I don't even know them. That's the trippiest thing of this whole thing. How many of you have ever been through a breakup in your life? Wow, some people have never gone through a breakup. I will assume everyone in this room has been through a couple, at least. How many of you would say, during that breakup, you were 1,000% on your game at work? No, there's no way. Because our personal lives, what we care about our personal lives, should always trump our work. So if you could say, yes, Jen, I would say you are a robot. There's no way. And this is what we're not paying attention to. Imagine how much divorce costs companies every year. No one's done the evaluation on it because I've looked for it. Imagine how much money costs companies every year for the emotional trauma that people go through just divorce alone. Just divorce alone. I would imagine it'd be almost, if not more, than healthcare costs. And, oh, by the way, the stress from those experiences are what's causing the healthcare costs. Yet we're ignoring it. We're not acknowledging it. I know when my emotional state is at a nice, peaceful realm, I'm killing it. Because all my energy can go into my creativity and my output and my productivity. If things were emotionally in distress in my life, I'm all kinds of distracted. I'm all over the place. My energy is frenetic and so is my brain. So why aren't we teaching these skill sets? So that people, when they go through emotional trauma, know how to process it faster. Or maybe if we actually teach better communication skills, we don't have to go through so many dramatic issues, right? So why aren't we teaching these things in school? I'd rather my kids know how to have effective, empathetic communication skill sets than do mathematics. And I know that's going to trip people up for a second. But at the end of the day, if their emotional life, because of their personal life, is in trauma and turmoil, it doesn't matter how great they are in math, because they're going to live a lonely life doing math really well. It's crazy. We don't talk about this more often. This one thing, everything that I pointed out, each principle is a game changer. This is a fundamental shift in our value systems. The health of your relationships are in direct proportion to your success and happiness. So guess what? If you make all of your relationships being in a healthy, happy, harmonious state, your work skyrockets. Skyrockets. If people knew that, they wouldn't sabotage their relationships as much. They wouldn't participate in drama as much. When their girlfriends call to complain, they do what I do. Sorry, drama-free zone, can't talk. Because I don't want to be tripped up by a needless emotional trauma. Because we don't need to. But until we apply this principle through the generations, we will continue to see an increased divorce rate. We will continue to see increased stress-related issues. Because if our personal lives are out of order, our body is, for sure, and so is our work. Which capitalizes on that last statement, there's power in conflict. Most people want to avoid, how many of you want to avoid conflict all the time? I was one of those people. I would always just avoid conflict, swallow what it was that I was thinking or feeling. Don't want to make waves. People like me better if I don't say too much. Do you know how damaging that is for yourself? Now, I'm not saying cause confrontation, totally different. I'm saying cause communication to resolve conflict. See how different that is? There's power in conflict. Do you guys know how intimacy is actually created in relationships? The number one way intimacy is created in relationships, and it's not physical, by the way. That's what most people think it is.
Listening?
Making up?
Conflict resolution. How many of you have ever had an argument with somebody, and once you made up, you actually felt closer to them afterwards? Conflict resolution is how people actually develop more trust and depth in their relationships. Yet we all try to ignore it. We all try to stay far away from it. Now, there's a good way to go about it, and there's a bad way. The bad way is you did this, and you said that, and you. Because if you say that to somebody, they're like this. And then they become defensive. Now, if you start more like, I feel this way, based on my perception, based on my life experiences, but I would like you to show me something differently. Show me a different understanding. Do you see how differently the conversation can go? And play that out again for you. That's like a huge walk-away skill set. Imagine somebody did something to you that you don't like. You have to first take responsibility for your feelings. They're your feelings. Probably based on your expectations, based on your perception. Okay, that's the ownership. It is. You only feel that way based on those things. And by the way, nothing has meaning until you give it meaning.
That's right.
Nothing has meaning until you give it meaning. Nothing. Literally nothing.
That's right.
That is a whole mind-blowing comment in and of itself. Nothing has meaning until you give it meaning. So if somebody bothered you, it's because you gave it the meaning to bother you. But okay, you feel upset about something. So you start by saying, I feel this way. I feel this way. Ownership. Based on my perception, based on my life experiences. Your perception is created by your life experiences. I feel this way based on my perception, based on my life experience, but I'd love to see it differently or understand it differently. Please show me something different. Now you're giving the other person an opportunity to share their perspective, to share their feelings. And that's when conflict resolution begins. Never say you in an attacking way in conflict resolution, because that will never get you to a resolution. That will only get you to defensiveness. Do you see how that alone can be a game changer for the rest of your life? Once you make it through that conflict, you create intimacy, which creates trust and loyalty. We talked about this earlier. You're not allowed to complain about something unless you're going to do something about it. Do not judge, be inspired. So if we become more emotionally intelligent based on everything that we talked about today, you stop judging people and circumstances, and you observe them. Observe. Different than judgment. And instead of saying, why are they doing that? You say, why are they doing that? So you switch from judgment to inspiration. In observation, you become inspired. That's how people find trends, by the way. People that are trend forecasters are really good at observing and not judging. Innovators are better at observing and not judging. Inventors judge and back up with a solution. You will get so much more out of life if you stop judging and start observing. You will become a better innovator, and you will become a better leader. And just happier, by the way. Always ask what if and why not. In every situation, what if this could be this way? Why not try it? When I was launching the Butler Bag Company, I went to every single person in the industry, and they'd say to me, women only want fashion, they don't want function. Oh, I love that their ignorance was so great for me. Women actually wanted both. In that last meeting, in that final meeting, that was a game changer for me. Instead of defending my idea, which I did all along in every meeting prior to, I thought I'd change my strategy. And how I changed my strategy was, I said to the guy across the table from me, what if, just entertain this crazy thought for a second, what if every woman wanted both fashion and function? And what if my idea was the solution to that problem? And what if it became a multi-million-dollar company and you had a chance to be a part of it and you said no and your competitor said yes? Then how do you feel? And that's when he said, deal, done, I'm in. Because I got him to see the possibility of what if in a positive light versus what if in a negative way. What if everything can go right versus what if everything can go wrong? And that is why that became the title of my book. Because I built every other principle upon getting other people to see the opportunity, the possibility in what I was doing. Creativity is your unlimited capital. I talked about this earlier. The more you're creating ideas, the less you fear someone stealing your idea. People say to me all the time, I want to help, I need help with my idea. Can you help me become an advisor for my company? And you need to sign an NDA. And they're very, I'm not saying signing an NDA is completely wrong. They're very fear-based about this. And I was like, didn't you call me to help you do something you don't know how to do? And oh, by the way, how hard is it for you to start a company? So someone would have to be really, really, really passionate about your idea in order to steal it, in order to pioneer it. And also, They'd have to think exactly like you in order to execute it the same way you were going to execute it. How many people would do that? Not that many. People knock you off once you've proven success, totally different story. All the people that told me I was crazy were probably the same exact people knocking me off a year and a half after we started my company. Because I proved it. Then people knock you off, and then it's just a copycat. And if you're a visionary, you're always ahead of them anyway, so it doesn't matter. They're always in your dust. Create your own footprint. This goes back to who you want to be, your authenticity, your vulnerability, and your transparency. If you're living a life like that, you are creating your own footprint. Something that's people are going to remember, that's going to impact lives. Any business that impacts lives in an authentic way will leave a footprint. Social impact is the biggest vertical growth of business right now. Why? Because we've shifted in a place where people really care about caring about other people and not just the bottom line. Millennials, again, part of the shift. Millennials are demanding it. They want to say, if my money is going here, or it could go there, and this person's doing good with it, I'm going to go where the good impact's going, versus just that person's yacht. It's a shift. You can follow it or you can't, but if you don't, then you're going to lack employees as well as consumers. Abundance is everywhere. I mentioned scarcity, fear-based mindset in here. I would love you to embrace more of an abundant mindset of opportunities everywhere. Because it really is. We were only brainwashed to believe that it was only meant for the single few of the world. It's everywhere. It's a very abundant world. And if you can't get yourself there today just by thinking the way you're thinking, start reading books about abundant-minded people. Start watching documentaries on abundant-minded people. Stop hanging out with the people that you're hanging out with who are scarcity-minded. Because scarcity-minded people will keep you back from going forward. And it will keep your mindset small. It'll keep your beliefs small. It'll keep your vision small. But if you're hanging out with people who are creating products and companies all the time, then it's totally normal, right? Everyone starts a business. My daughters last summer asked for an Instagram account, and I said, okay, girls, here's the deal. Here's all the security, safety issues. You're not allowed to put your picture in the profile. You have to keep it private, all these things. And they said, I control everyone you follow. And I said, okay. And then I'm going to suggest a few people that you should follow, who are my friends, who you know. And they said, okay. At the end of the summer, my daughter Madison says to me, Mommy, I don't know what book I'm going to write. Book? Do you have a school project that was due for school? No, my life book. I don't know what my life book is going to be. I'm still completely confused. And I'm like, I know, your life book for school? No, my life book, the book everyone writes. Because they were watching all of my girlfriends every day on Instagram, they thought every woman writes a book, goes on television, and starts a company. That's just what they do, right? Do you see how I have eradicated a limited belief of possibility for them? Do you see that? Holy shift. Shifted. They're entire, like, now they can go through life thinking, yeah, why wouldn't I start a company? I mean, I was writing my book in my mind when I was 9, right? Do you see, if we're hanging out with people like that, how it can change our entire perspective of the world? But if we're hanging out with people that are not thinking like that, it can change our entire perspective of the world. What you're watching on television changes your perspective of the world. There's an entire science study on this that you can look up, but if you're watching people stabbing each other and killing each other and blowing people up and stealing from each other and infidelity all over the place, guess what your perception of the world becomes? And oh, by the way, it lowers your frequency. You know the thing that we keep working on getting up? It lowers it. There are so many studies behind this and the music that you listen to and how it affects your perception and your energy and your cells of your body. Same with television. So if you're watching that stuff all the time, that's literally what you're putting. It's not just know, oh, this is just entertainment. Your brain's taking it in the same way it would if you went to see Tony Robbins. Doesn't know how to discern between the two. So your subconscious is being filled with junk you actually don't want in there. When people are watching television shows like that in front of me, I'd say, I'm not watching it. I'm just not. One of my friends thought I was really joking. I'm like, I'm really not joking. I'm not watching it. I'll take the next 2 hours of my life and go do something productive, read a book, go fuel my brain with something good. Because I don't need it. That's 2 hours of my life is wasted. 2 hours is a long time, in my opinion. Abundance is everywhere. You have to surround yourself in those environments that attract it, that think it, that see it. So, we're getting to the end. I actually gave you a little bit more than 20, by the way. I think it was like 25. Hitting the mental reset button is a really good brain training strategy when you get in a funk. So, when my daughters were 5, they were scootering around the house, and Morgan kept tripping and falling. And she said, Mommy, I am having the worst day ever. And I'm dying, trying not to laugh, biting my lip. And I'm like, honey, do you know what's going to happen if you keep saying that? She looks at me and she goes, and by the way, I speak like this to my kids all the time. And they'll tell you, yeah, we don't know what she's saying half the time, but she talks like that all the time. But they actually do get it. And they'll regurgitate it at different stages of life. So she said, I said, Mom, do you know what's going to happen? She said, I'll get more of a bad day. And I said, exactly. You'll get more of a bad day. So you have to hit the mental reset button. So I'm trying to be very visual for her. I'm like, you have to hit the mental reset button, like a delete button on a computer. Delete that thought and reprogram it with something different, like I only have good days. You can delete, literally, mental delete. The second something that comes across your brain that you don't want there because it's going to affect your outcome, delete it. Literally visualize deleting it. Uprooting it, like taking a plant out of the ground and root a different thought. So for Morgan that day, I was like, I only have good days. I only have good days. So she begins walking around the house, I only have good days. I only have good days. And as she's doing it, her sister Madison runs over her foot in the scooter and she goes, Madison, I only have good days. She goes, Mommy, if I said I only have good days, then why did Madison run over my foot? And I said, because you didn't believe it. You didn't actually believe it. Because if you did, you wouldn't have just given her the power to change that perspective. Because even though she ran over your foot, you still gave it a meaning. And you made it be that you're not having a good day. The mental reset button is one of the fastest ways to reprogram your brain if you're in a funk. My girlfriends will say it all the time now, it's really hilarious. Even some of the ones that were a little bit more negative earlier in life. Okay, Gruber, I just need to hit the mental reset button. Stay focused. So if you have all these skill sets and these new beliefs and these talents in action, there are always going to be the negative naysayers and the people who don't want you to get to the next level because they're afraid if you get to the next level, you're not going to be with them anymore. You guys realize that's actually a real fear for people? The way I see it is the more successful my friends are, the more successful I am. And if they're going to cool events, then I get to go. If they're doing really fun trips, I get to go. I want them to be really successful. I want to give them any of my resources so they can become really successful. I want to introduce them to any person that they could possibly meet so they become successful. Unfortunately, not everybody wants to do that for people. So you have to learn to discern between the people who genuinely are trying to help you and the people who are trying to derail you. That comes down to your intuition. We all have it. It's actually our most powerful gift. Most of us choose not to use it as often as we should. If we think about some really bad mistakes we made in life and we look back and we're like, oh man, I knew it. I knew that person was going to do that. I knew that wasn't going to work out, but I forced it because of my ego. So you learn to trust your instinct. You learn to trust your intuition. Every mistake I made, I didn't trust my intuition. I knew. The lesson I learned from all those lessons was to always trust my intuition and stay focused on my course, on my path. The only regret I have is not listening to it. So now I'll say to people, I'm sorry, what you're saying sounds really great to me, but my intuition is totally alarming right now. So I need to choose a different path. Why not say it? Why not trust it? Why not embrace it? As I mentioned, my perspective, now Madison Morgan's perspective. And I leave you with this because as you walk away today, I want you to choose to see a positive vision for your own life. I Only Have Good Days actually puts everything good into play for me. All those other things come into play because I only see wisdom in every person's, even if someone tripped me on purpose, I see wisdom in it. Even if some things happen, I mean, listen, I don't wake up and everything just goes according to plan. But even when it doesn't, I change my perspective quickly so the outcome is better than if I chose negative, right? Because if you see negative, then more negative happens. Like the red car analogy. Once you decide you're buying a red car, you start to see red cars everywhere. It's just what you're looking at. When you look at what you see is what you get. What you look for is what you attract. And by the way, speaking of attracting, I'm leaving you with this. The law of attraction, the power of your thoughts, all of those things is quantum physics. It's not woo-woo craziness. It's literally quantum physics, which I think is so much fun to read, but everybody else doesn't for the most part. But it is fun if you actually want to understand how your thoughts actually do create your reality, so you can work smarter, not harder. There's going to be people who try to derail you, but if you apply all these principles, you will actualize your potential in a way you probably never even thought possible. Starting by leaving here today, making sure that you have the right people in place around you, and the right opportunities will exist. Thank you very much for your time, and for all of you staying after.